Sorry, I'm late. She arrived to the blind date carrying a sleeping child, and nothing went as planned. The woman from John Walker's blind date profile looked nothing like the woman who finally burst through the restaurant doors. 23 minutes late, one sneaker untied, hair escaping from a messy bun, a giant diaper bag hanging from one shoulder, and a sleeping child draped across the other. For a moment, John genuinely wondered if she had mistaken him for someone else. The hostess looked almost as confused as he felt. The woman spotted him near the window and froze. Mortification spread across her face. "Oh no," she muttered to herself. Then she hurried toward his table. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly. "I know I'm late." John glanced at the sleeping little boy on her shoulder. That part wasn't really the surprise. Color flooded her cheeks. Right. Of course. The child. The boy remained asleep, one tiny hand wrapped around a plastic green dinosaur. John stood automatically. Hi." Neither of them knew what to do next. The situation was so absurd that John almost laughed. Instead, he pulled out a chair. "Would you like to sit down?" "Yes, please, before I pass out from embarrassment." That made him smile. She carefully settled into the chair while keeping the little boy asleep against her shoulder. The dinosaur nearly fell. She caught it. The diaper bag slid to the floor. A juice box rolled across the restaurant. A waiter stopped it with his foot. "Thank you," Olivia said weakly. The waiter gave her a sympathetic nod. John sat down again. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Finally, she exhaled. "The babysitter canceled 40 minutes ago." I tried calling everyone." She laughed nervously. "Apparently all my emergency contacts had emergencies of their own. You could have canceled. I already canceled twice." She looked down. "I figured if I canceled again, you'd assume I wasn't interested." John studied her. Most people he dated worked very hard to appear impressive. This woman looked like she had barely survived the day, and somehow that felt more honest than anything he'd encountered in years. "So you brought him?" She nodded. "He fell asleep in the car. What's his name?" "Noah." As if hearing his name, Noah shifted slightly but continued sleeping. John looked at the dinosaur. "Does the dinosaur have a name too?" Olivia groaned. "Unfortunately." "What is it?" "Sir Chomps-a-Lot." John laughed, a real laugh, the first of the evening. "That's a fantastic name. Noah named him when he was 3. How old is he now?" 4. Still a strong naming strategy. Olivia smiled despite herself. Some of the tension eased. The waiter arrived to take orders. Olivia immediately chose the cheapest item on the menu. John noticed. He didn't comment. Instead, he ordered pasta and a pizza to share. "That's too much food," Olivia said. "Then we'll have leftovers." She looked like she wanted to argue but lacked the energy. The food arrived. For 10 peaceful minutes, Noah continued sleeping. John and Olivia actually managed something close to a normal conversation. She taught preschool. He ran a software company. She loved children's books. He loved hiking and old science fiction movies. She was funny, dry, self-deprecating funny, the kind that caught him off guard. Then Noah woke up. His eyes landed on John. He stared. John stared back. Neither spoke. Finally, Noah pointed. "Who's that?" Olivia nearly choked on her water. "This is John." "Why?" "Because that's his name." "No," Noah said. "Why is he here?" John covered his mouth to hide a laugh. "That's actually a fair question." Olivia looked ready to crawl under the table. "We're having dinner." Noah considered this. Then he looked directly at John. "Are you rich?" John inhaled water at exactly the wrong moment. He started coughing, hard. Olivia's eyes widened. "Oh my God." She turned toward Noah. "Noah." "What?" "You can't ask people that." "Why not?" "Because it's rude." Noah looked unconvinced. He turned back to John. "You look expensive." For 3 full seconds there was silence. Then John laughed so hard he nearly knocked over his glass. Olivia buried her face in her hands. "I am so sorry. Please don't be." John was still laughing. "That might be the most honest thing anyone has ever said to me." Noah seemed pleased. He immediately reached for a slice of pizza. then another, then half of John's fries, then several bites of John's pasta. At some point, John realized something strange. He was enjoying himself, more than he had during any carefully planned date in recent memory. Nobody was pretending. Nobody was performing. Olivia wasn't trying to impress him. She was too busy making sure Noah didn't drink olive oil, and somehow that felt refreshing. As the evening continued, Noah provided a running commentary on everything: the restaurant, the pizza, the dinosaur, John's watch, John's shoes, John's face. Especially John's face. "You don't look like a prince," Noah announced. "I wasn't trying to." "Good. Why?" "You're too tall." Olivia laughed so hard she almost dropped her fork. John found himself laughing with her. The sound was warm, dangerously easy. Hours passed faster than he expected. Eventually, the check arrived. Olivia immediately reached for it. John gently stopped her. "Let's split it." Relief flashed across her face. He noticed. She didn't want charity. She wanted dignity. He respected that. Outside the restaurant, the Seattle air felt cool and damp. Noah had fallen asleep again, this time in Olivia's arms. John walked them toward her car. The parking lot was nearly empty. The evening should have ended there. Instead, as Olivia carefully adjusted the sleeping child against her shoulder, Noah stirred. His eyes remained closed. His voice was soft and sleepy. "Mom?" Olivia froze. For a second, something painful crossed her face. Something old, something deep. Then she gently brushed his hair back. "No, sweetheart." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "It's Aunt Olivia." Noah relaxed immediately and drifted back to sleep. John stood quietly beside them. The playful atmosphere of the evening vanished. Aunt Olivia, not Mom. The realization landed heavily. Suddenly, the exhausted woman he'd spent the evening laughing with seemed far more complicated than he had imagined. There was a story here, a difficult one, a story written in the dark circles beneath her eyes, in the way she held the little boy, in the sadness that appeared for only a second before disappearing again. Olivia looked up. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she offered a small smile. "Thank you for not running away." John returned the smile. "I was actually thinking the same thing." For the first time all night, she laughed without embarrassment. And as he watched her carry the sleeping child toward her car, John realized something surprising. This date had gone completely wrong. Nothing had happened according to plan, and it was the most interested he'd been in someone in years. John told himself he only asked Olivia out again because the first date deserved a fair attempt. A normal one. One without a sleeping child, a plastic dinosaur, or being publicly judged as expensive by a 4-year-old. But the second date had Noah too. So did the third. By the fourth, John stopped pretending to be surprised. Olivia always apologized. "I swear I'm not trying to bring a chaperone." And John always looked at Noah, who was usually holding a dinosaur in one hand and a snack in the other, and said, "He's more interesting than most adults I know." Noah liked that. Not enough to call him John, though. From the second date on, he was officially Mr. Fancy Money. Olivia corrected him every time. "Noah, his name is John." Noah shook his head. "No, he has shiny shoes." John glanced down at his shoes. "They are a little shiny." "See?" Noah said. And the name stayed. Their dates became strange little negotiations with real life. Coffee at a park, while Noah climbed the same slide 37 times. Dinner at a diner, where Noah insisted all peas were tiny green crimes. A bookstore visit where Olivia spent 20 minutes reading Noah, a picture book about a lonely stegosaurus, while John stood nearby, watching the way her voice changed for every character. She was tired all the time. He noticed it in small ways. The way she blinked too slowly when she sat down. The way she kept a spare granola bar in every pocket. The way she checked her phone whenever it buzzed, not because she was rude, but because some part of her was always waiting for bad news. She taught preschool during the day. 3 nights a week, she worked part-time helping at a community center childcare program. When John asked when she rested, she smiled. Sometimes at red lights, he thought she was joking. Then he saw her do it, just once, for 6 seconds. Still, Olivia never made Noah feel like a burden. 20 minutes after Olivia left, John was not fine. Noah had introduced him to an educational game called Dinosaur Hospital, which somehow required every couch cushion in the apartment, 3 spoons, half a roll of paper towels, and John's tie. Then Noah announced Sir Chomps-a-Lot needed toothpaste. "Dinosaurs don't brush their teeth," John said. "Extinct," Noah replied. Maybe that's why. John had no argument. By the time he realized Noah had left the apartment door open, the damage was already done. The neighbor's golden retriever, Biscuit, was sitting in the hallway with a stripe of mint toothpaste across his forehead. Noah looked proud. "He's a warrior." John stood there holding the empty toothpaste tube. Biscuit wagged his tail. Then things got worse. Noah lost one shoe, not both. John searched under the couch, in the toy bin, inside the laundry basket, behind the toilet, and once, in a moment of desperation, inside the refrigerator. Noah watched him with interest. Adults panic weird. Then the final disaster happened. John stepped into the hallway to return Biscuit to his owner. Noah shut the apartment door. It locked automatically. John stared at the closed door. "Noah?" From inside, Noah shouted, "Yes? Open the door, buddy." "Can't." "Why not?" "I'm making soup." John closed his eyes. "What kind of soup?" "Cereal." When Olivia came back 20 minutes later, John was sitting on the hallway floor beside Biscuit, who still smelled like mint, while Noah sang loudly inside the apartment. Olivia stopped, looked at John and Biscuit, and the door. Then she laughed so hard she dropped her keys. John had never been happier to be laughed at. "I understand now," he said solemnly. "Understand what?" "Why you're tired." Her laughter softened. For one brief second, something tender passed between them. Not attraction exactly. Something quieter. Recognition. After that day, John stopped seeing Noah as an interruption. He became part of the rhythm. And Olivia began to see John differently too. He never tried to impress Noah with money. He didn't arrive with extravagant gifts or try to solve Olivia's life like a business problem. Once, when her car made a terrible sound, he didn't offer to buy her a new one. He asked, "Do you want advice, help finding a mechanic, or do you just need to swear at it for 5 minutes?" Olivia had stared at him, then said, "Third option." So they stood in the parking lot while she insulted the car with remarkable creativity. John fell a little harder that day, but not everyone found the situation charming. His mother, Margaret Walker, discovered Olivia because a photo appeared online from a charity event John had attended. Olivia was in the background, laughing with Noah on her hip. The next morning, Margaret invited John to lunch, which meant she had concerns. Margaret Walker did not waste words. She wore pearls like armor and asked questions as if cross-examining the future. "She has a child?" "My friend Olivia is raising her nephew." "Your friend?" John set down his fork. "Yes." Margaret studied him. "How old is she?" 25. "And you're seeing her?" "I'm getting to know her." That is what men say when they already care. John said nothing. Margaret sighed. "I'm not judging her for not having money." "I didn't say you were." "No. You were preparing to." "That was true." She leaned forward. "I'm worried because she already has a life full of responsibility. A child, grief, financial strain, exhaustion. And you, John, have always been very good at wanting difficult things from a safe distance." The words irritated him because they were too precise. "She's not a project." "Good." Margaret's expression remained calm. "Then don't treat her like one." His jaw tightened. "I'm not." "Are you in love with her?" The question landed harder than it should have. John looked out the window. Seattle traffic moved slowly beyond the glass. Noah began saving stories for him. At preschool pickup, Noah would climb into the back seat and say, "Don't tell Mr. Fancy money yet." When he built a crooked block tower, he wanted a picture sent to John. When he learned the word herbivore, he demanded John be informed immediately, because he probably doesn't know. John always answered, sometimes with a serious reply, sometimes with a dinosaur fact. Once with a voice message saying, Please tell Professor Noah I respect the Stegosaurus lifestyle. Noah played it 7 times. Olivia smiled every time, then felt terrified after. Because children did not fall in love carefully, they trusted with their whole tiny bodies. They leaned in before checking whether someone was staying. And Noah had already lost too much. Olivia tried to slow things down. She canceled one dinner, then another. John noticed, of course. He noticed everything, even when he pretended not to. One night, after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch with one sock missing and Sir Chomps-a-Lot tucked under his chin, they sat in the tiny kitchen with 2 mugs of tea neither of them really wanted. Rain tapped against the window. Seattle looked blurred and lonely outside. "I'm scared," Olivia said suddenly. John looked at her. "Of me?" She hated how quickly he understood. "Not exactly. That sounds dangerously close to yes." She smiled faintly, then rubbed both hands over her face. "Noah likes you. I like him. That's the problem." John waited. Olivia stared at her untouched tea. "My sister's name was Claire." Her voice changed when she said it. Softer. Older. She was 5 years older than me. Loud. Dramatic. Always late. She used to sing in grocery stores just to embarrass me. John smiled gently. "She sounds fun." She was. Olivia swallowed. "She got sick when Noah was 2. The rain filled the silence between them. At first, we all said the normal things people say. Treatment. Hope. Fight. But eventually the words changed. Hospice. Papers. Custody." John said nothing. That was one of the things Olivia liked about him. He didn't rush to fill pain with sentences. She continued. "Near the end, Claire made me promise Noah would never go into foster care. She was terrified of him becoming a file on someone's desk." Olivia pressed her thumb against the mug. "I was 23. I had no idea what I was promising. I just knew she was dying, and she needed to believe her son would be loved." Her eyes shone. "So I promised." John's voice was low. "And you kept it. I'm trying. You are." "No," she said quickly. "I feed him. I get him to school. I pay rent late, but eventually. I remember Dinosaur Pajama Day. But sometimes I'm so tired I put cereal in the fridge and milk in the pantry. That sounds survivable. It doesn't always feel survivable." The honesty frightened her. She hadn't meant to say that much. John reached across the table, not taking her hand, just resting his fingers close enough that she could choose. After a moment, she did. His hand was warm, steady. For a while, they sat like that. No plan, no solution. Only rain, tea, and the quiet permission to be imperfect. When she finally looked at him, he was already looking at her. The space between them changed. It was not sudden. It had been changing for weeks. In parking lots, bookstores, playgrounds. In every small moment where he stayed when leaving would have been easier. John stood first. Olivia did too. Neither seemed to know why. They were close now. Too close to pretend. His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth. Her breath caught. He lifted one hand and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. It was such a small gesture that it nearly broke her. "Olivia," he said softly. She did not move away. The kiss almost happened. Almost. Then a tiny voice said, "I need emergency cereal." They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Noah stood in the hallway wearing full dinosaur pajamas, complete with a stuffed tail dragging behind him. His hair stood up on one side. He held an empty plastic bowl. John cleared his throat. Olivia turned toward the cabinet so fast she nearly hit her hip on the counter. "What kind of emergency?" Noah yawned. "The hungry kind." John looked deeply serious. "That's one of the top emergencies." Olivia shot him a look. He looked innocent. Noah shuffled into the kitchen and climbed onto a chair. "Were you guys doing grown-up whispering?" "No," Olivia said too quickly. "Yes," John said at the same time. Noah considered them both. "That's suspicious." The moment was ruined. Or maybe saved. Olivia poured cereal while John found a spoon. Noah ate half asleep, wearing his dinosaur tail, while the 2 adults avoided looking at each other and failed badly. But after John left that night, he sat in his car for a long time, because his phone contained an email he had not told Olivia about. Boston, a serious expansion opportunity, a partnership that could change his company's future. The investors wanted him there for at least a year, maybe longer. He had spent his entire adult life building toward a door like this. He thought Noah was busy. He thought the call was harmless. "Yes," John said quietly into the phone. "I understand the Boston timeline." Noah stopped moving a toy triceratops. John lowered his voice. "No, I haven't made a final decision. But if I accept, I know I'd need to relocate for the first year." A plastic dinosaur slipped from Noah's hand. John turned. Too late. Noah was staring at him. His little face had gone still. Olivia stepped out of the bedroom with a basket of laundry. "What's wrong?" Noah did not look at her. He looked only at John. "You're going far away?" John ended the call slowly. His mouth opened. No answer came. Olivia's eyes moved from Noah to John, then back again. "Noah." The boy's voice became smaller. "Like my mom?" The room went silent. The kind of silence that enters after something breaks. John felt every careful reason he'd prepared disappear. Olivia stood frozen with the laundry basket in her arms. Noah reached for Sir Chomps-a-Lot and held him tight against his chest. No one knew what to say, and that was what made it worse. The silence after Noah's question lingered long after John went home, like smoke after a fire. Nobody talked about Boston that evening. Not really. Noah eventually returned to his dinosaurs. Olivia folded laundry that didn't need folding. John left earlier than usual, and for the first time since they had met, everything felt fragile. A week passed, then another. John kept trying to find the right moment, the right words, the right explanation. But every version sounded wrong. "I'm considering Boston. Too cold. I might be leaving. Too final. I don't want to lose you. Too late." So he waited. And while he waited, the decision grew larger, more real, more dangerous. Then Olivia found out anyway. Not from John, not from a conversation, not from honesty, from an article. It happened on a Tuesday night after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch. Olivia was grading preschool worksheets while absent-mindedly scrolling through her phone. A business magazine appeared in her news feed. The headline made her stomach drop. "Walker Technologies prepares major Boston expansion." There was a photo of John. Smiling, confident, successful. The article described relocation plans, investor meetings, leadership transitions. A year in Boston, possibly longer. Olivia read the article twice, then a third time, as if another version might appear. One where John had told her first, one where she wasn't finding out like a stranger. Her chest tightened, not because he was leaving, because he hadn't trusted her enough to say it. The next morning she barely slept. By afternoon she was angry. By evening she was hurt. And by the time John arrived at her apartment carrying takeout and his usual easy smile, she already knew the conversation was unavoidable. The smile disappeared the moment he saw her face. "Olivia?" She held up her phone. The article glowed between them. John immediately understood. His expression fell. Oh, that single word hurt more than she expected. No denial. No surprise. Only guilt. "You were going to tell me." It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. "Yes." "When?" John hesitated. That was enough. A bitter laugh escaped her. "Wow. Olivia." "No, seriously." She set the phone down. "Wow. I was trying to figure it out." "Figure out what?" "How to explain it." She stared at him. "You explain it by speaking." His jaw tightened. "It isn't that simple." "It actually is." For weeks she had convinced herself John was different, reliable, honest, safe. Now every old fear she had spent years fighting came rushing back, all at once. Her father had left. Noah's father had disappeared. Boyfriends had walked away the moment life became inconvenient. Maybe she had been foolish to think this story would be different. Maybe people always left. Some just took longer. "You know what's funny?" she said quietly. John looked exhausted already. "What?" I spent months waiting for the moment you realized this was too much. His face fell. Olivia, the child. She pointed toward Noah's bedroom. The responsibility. Then toward herself. The grief. Her voice cracked. The mess. I never thought that. But I did. The room felt smaller. Tighter, like neither of them could breathe. John stepped forward. I care about you. I know. I care about Noah. I know. Then why are you acting like I don't? She laughed again. Not because anything was funny. Because she was trying not to cry. Because you're leaving. I'm considering a career opportunity. Across the country. His frustration finally surfaced. It's 1 year. That's a long time to a 5-year-old. That landed. Hard. For a moment neither spoke. Then John said quietly, You think I'm running away? Olivia looked away. Because yes, part of her did. Maybe not from them, but still away. Still gone. Still absent. The difference felt meaningless. You don't owe us anything. The words escaped before she could stop them. The second they were spoken, she regretted them, because she saw the pain in his face. Real pain, not anger. John stared at her, then said something she would remember for years. That's the problem. His voice was rough. I want to. Olivia blinked. What? I want to owe you something. He looked at her as though he wished she could see inside his head. You think this is about obligation? It is. No. His voice broke. It's about choosing people. The room became very quiet. I've spent my whole life keeping exits open. He swallowed. And then I met you. Olivia felt tears burning behind her eyes. You should go to Boston. The words sounded colder than she intended. His face changed immediately. Not surprise. Understanding. He finally realized what she was doing, building distance before he could. Protecting Noah before the leaving started. Protecting herself, too. A few days later, John accepted the position. A week after that, Olivia ended the relationship. If it could even be called a relationship. There was no screaming, no dramatic accusations, only heartbreak. The quiet kind. The kind adults carried. Afterward, John visited less. Then not at all. Not because he wanted to disappear, because every goodbye became harder. And Noah noticed. Children always did. The morning John left, Seattle arrived gray and rainy. Of course it did. Seattle seemed to understand sadness. His car was packed, the last box loaded, the engine running. John stood in the driveway outside Olivia's apartment building. One final conversation. One final goodbye. Neither knew what to say. Olivia wrapped her arms around herself, trying not to cry, failing. John looked at her for a long moment, then nodded, as though accepting something neither of them wanted. He turned toward the car. That was when a small voice shouted behind him, Wait! Noah. The boy came running across the wet pavement. Pajama pants. Jacket half-zipped. Hair completely wild. John. John immediately crouched down. Hey, buddy. Noah stopped in front of him, breathing hard, then reached into his pocket. For a moment, John thought it might be a note. Instead, it was a small plastic dinosaur. Green. Scratched. Well-loved. Sir Chomps-a-lot. Noah pressed it into his hand. John stared. Noah. The boy shrugged, trying very hard to be brave. You can borrow him. John felt his throat close. Borrow him? Noah nodded. Until you come back. For one dangerous second, John almost broke, almost promised, almost said exactly what Noah wanted to hear. But children deserved better than promises made from guilt. So instead he closed his fingers around the dinosaur, very carefully, as if it were something fragile, something priceless. Thank you. Noah threw his arms around him. John hugged him back, holding on longer than he should have. When he finally stood, his eyes were shining. Olivia noticed. So did Noah. Neither mentioned it. A few minutes later, John got into the car. The dinosaur sat on the passenger seat beside him. As he drove away, he looked once in the mirror. Olivia stood with one hand on Noah's shoulder, growing smaller, farther away, until finally they disappeared from sight. And for the first time since meeting them, John understood something terrifying. Leaving had never been the hardest part. The hardest part was wanting to come back. 1 year later, John Walker came back to Seattle. Not because Boston had failed. It had done the opposite. The expansion succeeded faster than anyone predicted. His company grew. Investors celebrated. Business magazines praised his strategic vision, which John found funny because the most important thing he had learned that year had nothing to do with strategy. It had to do with showing up. Every Sunday at 6, he called Noah. Every Sunday, Noah would appear on screen with crumbs on his shirt and a dinosaur in hand. "Hi, Mr. Fancy Money. It's John." "No." And that was that. John mailed Sir Chomps-a-Lot back after 3 months, but Noah immediately sent him another dinosaur. For emotional supervision. He didn't miss Noah's 5th birthday. He joined through video while wearing a paper dinosaur hat Sarah had mailed him. Olivia laughed so hard she cried, then pretended she hadn't. Over the year, John and Olivia spoke carefully at first, then honestly, then often. Not like people rushing back into romance, like people rebuilding something brick by brick. Olivia learned the difference between a man leaving and a man staying connected across distance. John learned love was not proved by one dramatic return. It was proved by remembering small things when no one applauded. Then Sarah called Olivia one Friday afternoon and stopped. John was already there. Noah sat in the chair between them wearing a bow tie over a t-shirt with a roaring T-Rex. Sarah stood near the hostess stand, smiling like a criminal mastermind. Olivia stared at John. "What is this?" John stood. "A blind date," she laughed once, breathless. "With someone I already know? That's the best kind." Noah slapped a paper onto the table. "I'm in charge." Across the top, in large crooked letters, it read, "Application to date my aunt." John picked up the pen. Olivia reached for the paper. "Noah," but John was already signing. "You didn't read it," she said. "I trust the author." Noah looked pleased. Olivia took the paper and read the rules. No disappearing, no lying, must watch dinosaur movies, must come to school performances, must not make Aunt Olivia cry in the bad way. Her eyes blurred at the last line. John's voice softened. "I can agree to those." Noah nodded seriously. "Good. Also, pancakes. That wasn't on the paper. I added it in my heart." John nodded. "Fair. Dinner was ridiculous. Noah stole John's bread." Sarah toasted herself for excellent emotional manipulation. Olivia laughed more than she had in months. After dinner, Noah ran to show Sarah that John had signed the application. John and Olivia stood alone near the window. For a moment, neither spoke. Then John said, "Our first date, you were 23 minutes late." Olivia smiled. "I know." He shook his head. "No." He reached for her hand. "Everything important in my life arrived later than I planned." Her smile trembled. "And was it worth waiting for?" John looked at her like the answer had been obvious for a year. Yes. That night, the three of them walked along the Seattle waterfront. Noah ran ahead with his plastic dinosaur raised toward the wind. Olivia's hand rested in John's. No one promised forever. No one pretended love would be easy. There was only a man who had come back, a woman who was learning to believe, and a little boy beginning to understand that not everyone who leaves disappears forever. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside this story. We often think love is proven in grand gestures, in dramatic declarations, perfect timing, or promises about the future. But real love is usually much quieter than that. It's the phone call that never gets forgotten, the birthday that isn't missed, the promise that isn't made lightly and isn't broken when life gets complicated. Olivia learned that not everyone who leaves is abandoning you. Sometimes people leave because life takes them somewhere else. The real question is whether they keep finding their way back. And John learned that love isn't about rescuing someone. It's about choosing them, again and again, even when it's inconvenient, imperfect, or difficult. From my point of view, the most touching moment in this story wasn't the first date, the goodbye, or even the reunion. It was a little boy handing over his favorite dinosaur and saying, "You can borrow him until you come back," because trust is the most precious thing a child can give. and John spent an entire year proving he deserved it. Now, I'd love to hear from you. If you were Olivia, would you have trusted John again after he left for Boston? And if you were John, would you have taken the opportunity and moved away, knowing what it might cost? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey. Until next time, take care of yourselves and of the people who keep showing up, even on ordinary days.